Dr. Kevin Baxter, Reverend Kevin Baxter, has been a friend of mine for now 2 decades, I believe. And when I had my ordination transferred into the denomination through induction, that was the year that Kevin was ordained. So we were in the same ceremony together. And so we've been through a lot of, church business and so forth. And right now, I'm the chair of the Council of Ministers. He's the secretary of the council, which all that really means is we're involved with a lot of boring church work. And if I had one thing to say about Kevin, the best way to describe him is he is an encyclopedia of knowledge of the Swedenborgian church. I can ask him chapter and verse for a question. What year the bylaws changed from X to Y and who did it? And he'll be like, well, that was Sally. She did it in 89 and then it changed again in 94. I mean, incredibly, might sound tedious, incredibly helpful. So I've decided that Kevin, we need to engage him with an AI so that when Kevin goes, we'll have actually that data to resource for the future, because it is a little bit like pushing a button. He's so knowledgeable and so grateful. And so we really have a lot of fun working together. We have to put together an agenda for our big meeting in a few weeks. So he's a great guy. Kevin was raised in the Church of the Holy City. His father was the pastor at Church of the Holy City before Jonathan Mitchell, and he was first the organist and the pastor. So Kevin visited DC. I took him for a tour of the new space, and he was recognizing furniture. Oh, I remember that. I played on that. I know that. I know what that was. So strong connections with our church, a good friend, and we're really grateful today knowing that he had his own Sunday worship service. Then he ran over to the Cambridge church and helped them. They don't have a pastor right now. And then he's now doing service for us. So thank you, Kevin Baxter, and he's coming to us from our old sanctuary, I see, so with his background. But thank you, Kevin, for being our minister and our preacher today.
Certainly. Thank you for having me. I actually somewhere have the background that I wanted to use, which is that one. This makes me feel a little bit more at home. This is the background of our church in Boston. The reason why I wanted to use the background is, unlike, I would say, pretty much all of the Swedenborgian churches I've ever been in, we actually have iconography at the front of the church. So folks there can see there's a little Jesus recessed into the wall, and that Jesus is the Ascension. This goes, I guess, to my encyclopedic knowledge that Rich mentioned. The first gathering of Swedenborgians from different places. So when the Philadelphia group set out this announcement to say, hey, we like what Swedenborg has to say. Anyone who's interested, come and visit us. It happened on Ascension Sunday. So today, or around the 29th of May, is actually an important day. The ascension of the Lord is an interesting thing because, I don't know, growing up in the church, I never really heard anyone talk about it significantly. It's one of those things we like to talk about a lot of the stories. There's something about the ascension where it's kind of like God left you. Yay! So we don't talk about it very much. It's kind of interesting. Actually, one of the other ministers in convention, Reverend Robert McCluskey, saw that I was talking on the Ascension today, and he remarked on a statement made by F. Robert Tafel, a probably second cousin, I think, of Rich, where he referenced apparently the reading from Acts talking about Jesus coming down the way he went up, and F. Bob's response was, I guess that means head first. And so then it kind of put in place the picture of Jesus bonking his head into the ground on the way down, but that's not what anyone really thinks it means. And this, I think, speaks to a larger problem within what does it mean for us to read scripture in general. We read all these stories of things happening. They're either factual or not. We don't really, I wasn't there. I can't speak to the historicity of it, but we have all these stories, and the question then becomes one of why would anyone want to talk about this story? There's a story about Jesus leaving and the disciples then running and going to church continuously for a 2 week time until Pentecost comes. I don't know if it's actually true, but that's how we divide up the Christian year. And so the question, when I read about the Ascension, is kind of so what? Jesus left. To understand it, it's about understanding a larger story. It's about understanding the entire story of Jesus's ministry on earth. And I like to think about it, and I don't know how well people know the First Testament, but you have Joshua who invades Israel, and Joshua invades Israel, and he follows a particular route in order to conquer it. The ministry that Jesus had follows basically the same route. And some argue that Jesus' ministry is conquering the Holy Land in a deeper way, in a spirit-filled way versus a militaristic, material way. So the life that we're presented is this picture of this person who's transforming the people of Israel in a spiritual way. And what we can take from it is looking at the life of the Lord and saying, this is the battle that he's facing. How does that interface in my life? So Swedenborg talks about this notion of Jesus's work on the earth that's about subduing the connection to the physical realities and opening up the spiritual realities. And that becomes the work that each of us have to do in this life, is what does it mean for us to live and live in a way that is connected with our spirit, connected with our life. And the Ascension is kind of really the capstone of Jesus's ministry. It's when he fully bodily ascends to heaven. In other words, the stuff that we think is external becomes fully internal. So what I want to talk about in regards to that is, imagine a life which is one where everything you do is actually connected to faith. It's about seeing the material world we live in as kind of an illusion for the meaning that's actually behind it. So, for instance, what would it mean to live a life where you wake up and you take a shower? And as you take a shower, you understood that you were asking yourself the question of, what does it mean to cleanse myself of the negative things of my life, of the materialism, of selfishness? What does it mean to remove those things? And then maybe after showering, you go to eating and you start to eating. And what if you actually understood a deeper element of what it meant to eat, where you were saying, what am I going to ingest today? What are the truths? What are the things of value that I'm going to put in my body to help me live better? And then from there, I'm assuming most people go to work, but some people are retired. So we'll just say, going out the door, everything we do, from waking up, that shower, that first meal, to maybe even commuting, becomes an expression of faith. All the time, though, we ignore the why we're doing what we're doing, and we get concerned about the what. So we're commuting. We get very concerned about whether or not we're going to be where we need to be on time. We don't see the other drivers as spiritual beings. We oftentimes feel like we're in competition with them. I'm guessing, if anyone, I drove around DC quite a bit. So I know, fighting my way down Connecticut Avenue, I oftentimes did not see the other drivers as human. But what happens if we start viewing the other people as not only being human, but our driving is an act of love to other people? I love parliamentary procedures. I love understanding the history. I like understanding all these things, not because I'm a pedant, even though many people think I am, So because I look at the rules of business, I look at the history, I look at all these things not as something that's there to control us, but I look at it as communication. I look at it as actually an act of love to understand the why we do what we do in order to go forward and to help people understand the why we've done it. That doesn't mean we should ever be locked into doing it that way, but it does mean understanding the motivations, understanding what it means for me to do anything from a more spiritual place. And other people might see it as being uh, pedantry and caring about jots and tittles. But when all of a sudden you forget something, those jot and tittles become much more important. You walk into the office, but actually, not, I was riding the T the other day. So the T is our version of the subway or the metro. I need to remember which place I'm talking to here. For those people in the Midwest, these are trains that people use for commuting. They're like cars, but other people drive them more like buses on sort of rails. I know that the people in the Midwest may not get it, but I was on the T, and I'm sitting here on this T, which of course is a Bostonian. I must mention I was on the section of the T that's the oldest subway in the United States, and the guy operating the T started singing a song about the MBTA, thanking everybody on the MBTA that day for riding it. He was giving like a little MBTA commercial. And every stop, he seemed excited to welcome the people onto it and off of it. It transformed the day that those people were having. It certainly transformed my ride, which oftentimes riding the T, you get the person who just goes, next stop, Park Street. But this person would say, we're at Park Street. I hope you have a great day. Little things like that transformed the mood of everybody on the train. What is the difference between a person driving the train who does the minimal amount to get through the grind of work versus the person who sees what they're doing as a gift of love to other people? Wilson Van Dusen, in his book on uses, talks about a shoe salesman caring more about the person whose foot he's trying to fit than the profit he'll get off of the shoe. I think a lot of people in this day and age go to work and are faced with this concept of the grind, a grind where you feel disconnected from what you're doing. You feel maybe even sometimes like lost, adrift at why on earth you're wasting your life doing this. And no matter what it is, the daily activity of showering, eating, commuting, being the operator of the T, which, if anyone actually knows what it's like to drive a vehicle that cannot turn, where you're just going forward, back, or next stop, it's incredibly monotonous. But all of us struggle with this concept of monotony. And what does it mean for us to fully embody a spiritual picture of how we are fitting in a loving way to the people in the world around us? And the story of the Ascension is about the transcendence of ourselves from the material to really trying to exist in a spiritual reality. It's a way that God tries to connect with everyone, a sense of meaning, of purpose. And that sense of meaning and purpose is never found in the what, it's always found in the why. The implications of this moment in the Bible are incredibly powerful. And yet, so often, we use the story as the beginning of a period of waiting, right? We use the story to say, well, when is the Lord going to come back again? The larger church keeps waiting for Jesus to appear on a street corner somewhere and start doing things to end war, to end hunger, to end famine. And the reality is, we shouldn't be waiting. The Lord is with us, surrounding us. empowering us right now as we speak in everything we do. The story of the Ascension is about the Lord saying we can take the material of this world and imbue it with love as long as we remember what the most important thing is. What was the way the Lord was taken from this earth? It may have been headfirst, like F. Bob Tafel was talking about. But I think what it was talking about is that the Lord will always come to us through love. The Lord will come to us through us loving the people around us. And that is an opportunity that doesn't take any kind of great commitment. It does not take having the right degrees. It does not take having time to volunteer. It is something we can literally do every day when we just open our minds up to the significance of what it means for us to do what we do with love and how that impacts other people. I like to think about this as being recorded right now. My assumption is that recording will go and be posted somewhere. We have no idea the way in which these moments in these worship services will touch lives and hearts, days, months, years down the road. But if we do it with love, if we realize the way in which love does not stop with just the moment, but goes from each person to each person to each person, that these moments become incredibly important. And so I guess for me, the question of application this week is like that driver doing the monotonous task of just pressing go to the next stop, but who had the desire to say, can I make people's day a little bit better by showing a little love? What monotonous thing that you do each week, maybe each day, can you imbue with love, understanding the way in which it touches the lives of others? Amen.
Thank you, Kevin. That was fantastic. And I have to confess, I have not preached on the Ascension, so you have that right. You got that right. I can't remember preaching on it, so that was really good. And I love the message of bringing it into the daily life rather than some abstract thing that we have to go do. It's just we have an opportunity every day. As you know, Kevin, we open it up for questions here, and so if anybody has a question or a comment, you can raise your hand either here in the sanctuary or and I'll pass you a microphone, or if you are online. Let me just check here if anybody in the sanctuary space, chapel space, has a question, comment. No? All good? Yeah. Good. How about anybody online? A question?
I've comment.
A comment? Go for it.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah. Thank you very much. This was such a. My connection is unstable. I'm going to turn and I'm going to also plug in my hard wire in case that helps. Anyway, so often we get. Fleming Sermon was very down to earth, and I like to take notes because I'm an inveterate note taker, and I took a lot of them today, which is an indication that you held my attention, and I think I was able to understand what you were saying, and that's a great accomplishment. I also wanted to say that we might have crossed paths. I don't know where you were in 1991, but the Reverend Dick Baxter officiated at my mother's funeral at Sandy Spring Friend's house. And I believe Louise and I visited your house was it Belpre Road?
Yes,
And there,
4720 Belpre Road. Yep.
and there might have been I don't know if you were a kid then, but you might have been in the house. Anyway,
I probably was.
the other part of it is that my dad was the organist at the Newtonville Church until his death in 1959. My first cousin was Edwin Capon. And thanks to Malcolm Peck in our congregation, I have inherited the music that that was your dad's at the church, and I can probably find a local church music director who can use it. But since you're on here, if you wanted to reconnect with your dad's music, including multiple copies of the Fauré Requiem, we can. Uh, Rich will know how to get you in touch with me. But thank
Oh,
you
yeah.
Sounds
very
great.
much.
I can
Yeah, sounds
definitely.
great.
Jimmy, let me just bring it up and just get this microphone.
I know you from when you got married at Church of the Holy City. I was
yeah.
the wedding coordinator. I think that's been 10 or 15 years ago. But anyway, I enjoyed your comparison between the subway and the subway in your area and people in the commute and the love thing. Richard knows very well that love is my thing, and that I often turn the Bible here at the church to 1 Corinthians. It speaks of love, and that's my thing. And I think that's what the world needs, more of love. So I was glad to see you talk about love and the subway and the feeling that one can gain some love from the subway. Be it whatever you call it. I can't remember the name that you call it, but in D.C. we call it the subway.
Or the Metro.
Oh, the Metro.
Here it's the Boston T.
Thank you for your sermon today. What has really stuck out to me is the Ascension, as I've known it growing up as from a child, the waiting. That really stuck out for me today. That is not something we have to wait for, but we can do these things to show love. And the way that you talked about how when I'm in the shower, I can be thinking about the spiritual aspect of that when I'm having a meal. It was so beautiful. Thank you. Never heard the Ascension taught this way, but I was really blessed by it. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and it just, we pay a lot of attention to what Jesus does. We don't pay attention to the fact that the disciples went to the temple to pray, continuously following it, and to worship and bless God. And I like to think that if our body is a temple, it's about living that blessing that the disciples were doing after it. It's not about the waiting. Yeah.
Amen.
Any other questions or comments? Glenn, and then Ian.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it. And your explanation of the T helped me a great deal. So, when I think of the Ascension, I feel a sense of longing and loss. And I'm particularly reminded of the walk to Emmaus, when the two disciples finally recognized Jesus as he broke bread, and then he disappeared. And I'm going, now he goes? Just when I thought I might have this conversation, I might get close. Anyway, your conversation today has helped me a great deal to see that he made himself available to me and to us, not just on Sunday morning and not just, when I'm working or not just when there's something quote unquote important going on, but in every aspect of my life. I'll be thinking about that for some time. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Lynn?
Hi, Ian and I are here at the Meeting House Farm. Nice to see you all. I just want to touch base with the new space. Congratulations. So I was
Thank you.
sitting here at the Meeting House Farm, and I'm looking up at this Johnny Appleseed. I don't know if you can see it, but I was thinking of what your reading was, and the seeds that Johnny Appleseed planted was that presence of all that we've shared today. And I think when we think about that seed given at Ascension, for me, it's that deep light that you spoke of the subway, and that wondrous gift of somebody cheering up our day. And of course, children are one of the lights of our world, right? There's this gift of kids. And I feel very, very blessed that when children, oops, can you see us? We're packing here.
Yes.
Okay,
Can hear you.
sorry. When we're really deepening our own soul, I mean, Swedenborg gives us that deeper intrigue of that correspondence. And I love how you put the correspondence of Ascension within the conversation. So thank you so much. And yeah, I hope to see you all soon. Thank you. You want to say anything?
No, it's okay.
Okay, good. All right.
Thank you, Lynn. Joy writes into the chat, we pray on earth as it is in heaven. Some say that we are charged to be Jesus' hands and feet in the world. No waiting. And I think, Joy, you summed up Kevin's message in a really lovely way, which is we can debate these things, what happened here, what happened there, what's going to happen next. But the overarching message is we have a responsibility, if we are going to be followers of Jesus, to be engaged in being better people every day and loving people everywhere. And I love the way that Kevin used a day in the life, that we can just practice it at each step, and we have no idea how it ends up. I'm struck, Kevin, by near-death experiences when people come back, which of course Swedenborgians always like those. And I'm always struck by the people who say, wow, it was the smallest thing that I did that was so important to my spiritual life. I paid for somebody's groceries who got stuck in the grocery line, but it was nothing about my career and everything I did and all these things that I thought, all the accolades I got. It was really about the small acts of kindness, and I think you really captured that today for us, that it's a reminder for all of us, the small acts of kindness, particularly the ones that are not transactional, you can't get anything back from, that you're just being kind. And I'm always reminded, people say how you treat a waiter and a cab driver is always telling about your personality, because you can be very transactional and you may never see them again, and it's always good. So I really appreciate your highlighting love at every step, and that's Christ coming into the world.